Welcome to the Mangalove channel. Today, we would like to introduce to you a story about a werewolf marked me as his mate. Now he shows up at my window every full moon like it's normal. Grieving widower Bruce Arthur desperately seeks a limited edition doll for his daughter on Black Friday and encounters Joyce Taylor, who selflessly gives it to him. Their unexpected connection, rekindled on a blind date, leads to a profound love that heals their past heartbreaks, helping them build a new blended family and find peace. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Mangalove so you won't miss any of the newest stories. Now, let's dive right into today's story. Black Friday in Los Angeles was chaos dressed in tinsel. The sun had barely risen, yet the city pulsed, a living organism of flashing store signs, car horns, and frantic footsteps echoing through glossy mall floors. Shoppers moved like tides, chasing discounts, laughter, and noise. But Bruce Arthur wasn't chasing a deal. He was chasing redemption. He stood at the center of Westfield's Century City Mall, tall and composed on the outside, but inside his heart thud with guilt. He adjusted the collar of his charcoal coat, scanning the toy aisle like a man on a mission. His neatly brushed light brown hair fell slightly over his forehead, and his hazel eyes, flecked with green and gold, carried the tired ache of someone who hadn't slept much in years. All for one thing, a limited edition Star Princess doll, the only gift his 7-year-old daughter, Amber, had asked for. He had missed Thanksgiving dinner the night before, the first one since Emily, his wife, died 4 years ago. He had promised Amber he'd make it home in time, but work had swallowed him again. When he came back, she was asleep, her tiny arms wrapped around her late mother's photo. Now standing among crowds and blaring pop music, Bruce wasn't looking for a toy. He was looking for forgiveness. He finally spotted it, glowing under the fluorescent light like salvation, one remaining Star Princess doll sitting on the middle shelf. He moved toward it quickly. So did someone else, a woman, tall and graceful, whose rich brown skin caught the soft shimmer of the store lights. Their fingers brushed as they both reached for it at the same moment. "Sorry," she said first, pulling her hand back slightly, though her voice carried warmth. "I didn't see you." Bruce blinked, thrown off by her presence. Her eyes, deep, expressive, and kind, looked right at him. She wore a soft beige trench coat, her natural curls tied loosely behind her head, a few strands falling freely around her face. She had the air of someone composed, yet deeply human. "No, Bruce began, his voice quieter than intended. "You go ahead," she smiled, polite but firm. "I think we both spotted it at the same time." He looked at the doll, then at her. "It's for my daughter," he said gently. "It's kind of important." Something in his tone made her pause, that subtle tremor between pride and regret. "Ah," she said softly. "Well, that makes this complicated. It's for my niece. My sister's been working double shifts, and I promised I'd find her this doll. It's kind of important to her, too." For a second, neither spoke. Around them, shoppers bumped and rushed, snatching boxes and arguing over prices. But in their small corner of chaos, time seemed to hold still. Just two people and one gift that meant everything to both. Bruce's jaw tightened. He wanted to insist. He could buy it online, sure, but not today. Not in time for Amber to wake up and find it on her bed like he'd imagined. Then he looked at the woman again and noticed the kindness in her face, the steadiness in her voice. He sighed softly. "Look," he said, "I know we don't know each other, but my little girl, she's been through a lot. Her mom passed away a few years ago. This doll, it's all she's been talking about. I missed dinner with her last night, and His voice trailed off. He hated how exposed he sounded. The woman's eyes softened immediately. "Oh," she whispered, "I'm so sorry." "It's fine," he murmured, forcing a small smile. I want her to feel seen, you know?" The woman looked down at the box in her hand, then back up at him. A quiet moment stretched between them, the kind that feels like understanding without words. Finally, she smiled faintly. "Then I guess your little girl should have it." Bruce blanked. What? She pushed the doll gently toward him. She needs it more than my niece does. I can get something else. Maybe it's not about who found it first, but who needs it most. For a second, Bruce didn't know what to say. No one had done something like that for him in a long time. I don't even know your name, he said softly. Joyce, she replied, her lips curving into a kind smile. Joyce Taylor. Bruce Arthur. He extended his hand. When she shook it, he felt something. Something human, grounding, real. I can't let you just give it up, he said. At least let me buy you coffee or dinner, something. Joyce laughed lightly, a sound that cut through the noise around them. Then coffee, he persisted. It's the least I can do. She hesitated, watching the sincerity in his eyes. There was no arrogance, just quiet gratitude. But she shook her head gently. You don't owe me anything, Bruce. Just make sure that little girl of yours knows how loved she is. He wanted to say more, but before he could, a group of shoppers brushed between them. When he turned back, Joyce was already walking away, her coat swaying softly as she disappeared into the sea of people. Bruce stood there for a moment, holding the doll like something sacred. That night, back home, the house was quiet, the kind of silence that hums with memories. The wall still carried the faint scent of Emily's vanilla candles, though Bruce hadn't lit one in years. He crept into Amber's room. She was asleep, curls spread across her pillow, hugging her stuffed bunny. Guilt pricked at him again. He placed the Star Princess doll gently beside her and kissed her forehead. When she woke the next morning, her shriek of joy echoed through the house. "Daddy, you got it! You got the princess!" Bruce smiled, eyes glistening. "Yeah, baby, Santa's early this year." She ran into his arms, giggling, and in that brief embrace, her warmth, her joy, the heaviness in his chest lightened. As she twirled around the living room, Bruce leaned against the doorway watching her. But his mind wandered back to the woman in the store. Joyce, her voice, her kindness, the way she'd looked at him, like she understood, not out of pity, but empathy. Across town, Joyce sat in her apartment, sipping tea while wrapping gifts for her sister's kids. Her niece's box now contained a bright pink teddy bear instead of the doll, but she didn't regret it. She smiled to herself, remembering the look in Bruce's eyes, that quiet desperation, that love that only comes from deep loss. Her phone buzzed. Lydia, her best friend, texted, "Still single this Christmas?" Joyce replied, texting, "Still picky this Christmas?" Lydia texted back, "One day, someone's going to surprise you." Joyce smiled faintly to herself. Maybe, but he better come with a good story, she thought. She set her phone down, still smiling faintly, unaware that the man whose story she had just changed was thinking of her too. That night, Bruce stood on his balcony overlooking the city lights. The wind brushed his hair as he held a glass of whiskey in one hand, the faint laughter of Amber echoing from her room. He closed his eyes and whispered softly to himself, "Thank you, wherever you are." Somewhere in another part of the city, Joyce looked out her own window, the same city lights reflecting in her eyes. She didn't know why she couldn't shake the image of him, that soft smile, the quiet gratitude, two hearts, one act of kindness, neither realizing that what began with a simple gift had already started rewriting the story of their lives. Los Angeles glowed like 1,000 tiny stars had fallen to Earth. The streets shimmered with holiday lights. Couples walked hand in hand beneath cafe awnings, and the hum of traffic sounded almost musical against the evening air. Joyce Taylor sat inside La Riviera, a soft, candlelit restaurant tucked along Melrose Avenue. The air smelled of roasted garlic and red wine, and jazz drifted faintly from the speakers. She glanced at the empty seat across from her and exhaled. Her friend Lydia had insisted she show up tonight. "It's not a big deal," Lydia had said. "Just a blind date, dinner. You need to stop working and start living again." Living? Joyce almost laughed at that word. After her fiancé left her 5 years ago, living had felt like a performance. Smiles for work, laughter with friends, but a quiet hollowness beneath it all. She brushed her hair back, adjusting the gold earrings she'd almost talked herself out of wearing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Lydia read, "He's on his way, don't you dare bail." Joyce smiled faintly, typed back, "I'm staying, happy," and set the phone down. Then she heard a voice behind her. "Joyce?" She turned and froze. Bruce Arthur stood there, dressed in a dark navy suit, his hazel eyes warm under the glow of the candlelight. The same man from the toy store. For a heartbeat, neither of them spoke. The surprise, the disbelief, it was all there in their eyes. Then Bruce's lips curved slightly, half in shock, half in awe. "Well," he said softly, "this is unexpected." Joyce let out a stunned laugh. "You've got to be kidding me. I take it you're my blind date?" "I guess I am." They both stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Bruce gestured toward the chair across from her. "May I?" She nodded, and he sat. The waiter appeared with 2 menus and a knowing smile. "Would you care for some wine this evening?" Bruce glanced at her. "Do you like red?" "I do," Joyce said softly. "Then red it is," he told the waiter, who nodded and disappeared. The silence that followed wasn't heavy, just charged. They were both remembering that chaotic morning at the toy store, their brief connection, their strange goodbye. Joyce was the first to speak. "I can't believe this. Out of all the people in LA, I end up on a blind date with you." He laughed quietly, rubbing the back of his neck. "You know, I almost didn't come tonight. My friend Ryan has been trying to get me to go out for months. Said I needed to meet someone who still believes in kindness. Guess he was right." Her expression softened. "You remembered?" "Of course," Bruce said, his tone gentle. "You gave away the last toy in the store to a stranger. I don't forget things like that." She blushed faintly, glancing down. "Well, I couldn't exactly let a little girl wake up disappointed." "Amber loved it," he said, smiling at the memory. "She hasn't let it out of her sight since. Named it Princess Emily, after her mom." Joyce's eyes flickered with quiet emotion. "That's beautiful." Bruce's voice lowered, warm but tinged with ache. "Yeah, Emily passed away 4 years ago. I've been doing my best to hold things together for Amber, but some nights—" He stopped himself, exhaling slowly. "Some nights feel like a conversation with silence." Joyce looked at him, really looked. His calm exterior couldn't hide the loneliness in his eyes. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. "Don't be," he said. "You just reminded me people still care, even when they don't have to." The waiter returned with a bottle of wine, poured 2 glasses, and left them alone again. Joyce lifted her glass. "To unexpected meetings," she said. Bruce's eyes met hers. "2 second chances," he replied. They clinked glasses, and something shifted, a quiet, fragile warmth filling the space between them. As the night went on, conversation flowed more easily. They talked about work, Bruce's architecture firm downtown, Joyce's career in marketing. They talked about LA traffic, favorite cafes, the small things that make the city feel like home. And then, like threads pulling loose, they talked about what really mattered. "My fiancé left me 5 years ago," Joyce said suddenly, her voice low. "We'd been together forever. I thought we'd built a life. But one morning, he just stopped loving me, said he wanted something less complicated." Bruce's expression softened. "I'm sorry, Joyce." "I've heard that before," she said with a faint, brittle smile. "But it's okay. I learned how to build my life back, just never figured out how to open it again." Bruce leaned in slightly, his gaze steady. "Maybe that's not something you figure out. Maybe it just happens when you least expect it, like running into someone from a toy store." He smiled. "Exactly like that." They both laughed, not forced, but real. It was the kind of laughter that loosens something inside you. When the laughter faded, silence lingered again, but this time it wasn't awkward. It was tender. Joyce studied him, noticing how the candlelight softened his face. There was a stillness about Bruce that felt grounding, like a man who'd seen too much loss but still believed in small miracles. "Do you ever feel guilty for being happy?" she asked quietly. Bruce's jaw flexed. "All the time," he admitted. When Emily died, I promised myself I'd never stop loving her, but I also promised Amber that I'd keep smiling for her sake. Sometimes I wonder if I'm allowed to love again, if that breaks some unspoken rule. Joyce's voice was barely above a whisper. Love doesn't replace, it expands. Their eyes met, and in that instant, something unspoken passed between them. He reached across the table, his hand brushing hers. The touch was light, tentative, but it sent warmth rushing through both of them. Joyce didn't pull away. The moment stretched. The quiet hum of jazz, the flicker of candlelight, the heartbeat of two people who hadn't expected to feel again. When the waiter came back with dessert menus, they both smiled like teenagers caught sharing a secret. "No dessert," Bruce said softly, eyes still on her. "I'd rather stay right here in this moment." Joyce's smile trembled, but her eyes glowed. "You say things that sound like they belong in a novel." He laughed. "That's because I mean them." Later, when they stepped outside, the night had turned cool. The city lights shimmered across the windshield of his parked car. Bruce slipped off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders before she could protest. "You look cold," he said. "I'm fine," she replied, though she didn't move to take it off. They stood on the curb, the soft hum of traffic around them, neither wanting to say goodbye. "I'm glad I came tonight," Bruce said finally. "I almost didn't." "Me too," Joyce whispered. He looked at her eyes, searching. "Would it be too forward if I asked to see you again?" Joyce hesitated. Her instinct was to protect herself, to pull back before her heart remembered what hope felt like. But looking at him, she couldn't. "No," she said softly, "it wouldn't be too forward." He smiled, the kind of smile that reached his eyes. "Then it's a date." When Bruce got home that night, Amber was already asleep. He peeked into her room, tucking the blanket around her shoulders. The star princess doll lay beside her, its plastic crown slightly tilted. He smiled, whispering, "Good night, my girl." As he turned off the light, his mind replayed the sound of Joyce's laughter, the warmth of her hand. He hadn't felt that alive in years. Meanwhile, Joyce stood by her window, city lights stretching endlessly below. She still wore his jacket, its faint cologne wrapping around her like a memory. Her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number appeared. "Bruce, thank you for tonight. I don't know what this is yet, but it feels like something good." Joyce smiled, her heart trembling in the best way. She typed back, "Maybe we don't need to know what it is. Maybe we just let it happen." She set her phone down, feeling the quiet warmth spreading through her chest. For the first time in years, she didn't feel like love was behind her. It felt possible. Outside, Los Angeles shimmered. Somewhere beneath those lights, two hearts, once broken and once parted, began to beat in rhythm again. And neither of them knew it yet. But this was only the beginning of the love story that would heal them both. Los Angeles wore a softer face in winter, the skies turning pale gold by evening, the breeze carrying the faint scent of rain mixed with bougainvillea. From the balcony of his home in the Hollywood Hills, Bruce Arthur watched the city stretch endlessly below, a blanket of lights that reminded him of the stars his daughter used to wish upon. Only now, those wishes felt closer. Inside, laughter floated down the hallway. Joyce Taylor sat cross-legged on the living room floor beside Amber, both surrounded by colored pencils and paper crowns. Amber's curls bounced as she laughed, her tiny hands holding up a drawing of 3 stick figures, Bruce, Joyce, and herself, under a big sun. "What's this?" Bruce asked, leaning against the doorway, smiling. Amber turned to him, eyes shining. "It's us. You, me, and Miss Joyce. I drew our family." Bruce's chest tightened. "You are listening to a narrated story on the Mangalove channel. Don't forget to share your thoughts about today's story." Joyce looked up at him, warmth flickering in her eyes. "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Bruce said softly, kneeling beside her. "You even gave me hair." Amber giggled. "You still have some, Daddy." Joyce laughed, the sound like music. Full, effortless, healing. Bruce looked at her, truly looked. The way her curls framed her face, the tenderness in her eyes when she spoke to his daughter, the lightness she carried that somehow filled the house. He hadn't realized until that moment just how much space she had already taken in his world. It had been 3 months since their blind date at La Riviera. What began as cautious companionship had unfolded into something deeper. Shared dinners, quiet walks by the beach, late-night talks that stretched until dawn. Joyce had met Amber soon after, nervous at first, but Amber had adored her instantly. There was something about Joyce that children gravitated to, warmth without pretense, kindness that asked for nothing, and Bruce was learning to smile again. Still, love, even when it feels right, comes with ghosts. One Saturday evening, Bruce found Joyce standing in his late wife's studio, a small, sunlit room at the end of the hall, untouched since Emily's death. The space smelled faintly of turpentine and lavender. Canvases leaned against the walls, half-finished paintings of skies and oceans. Joyce turned as he entered, guilt flashing across her face. "I'm sorry. Amber showed me this room. I didn't mean to intrude." Bruce shook his head gently. "It's okay. I just haven't been in here for a while." He walked to one of the canvases, Emily's last piece, a watercolor of the ocean at dusk. His voice was quiet, distant. She used to say, "Every sunset was a promise that tomorrow would be better." For a long time, I didn't believe that. Joyce stepped closer, her presence soft but grounding. "You don't have to forget her, Bruce. Loving again doesn't mean erasing her." Bruce's throat tightened. "Sometimes I feel like I'm betraying her memory by being happy again." Joyce reached out, her hand finding his. "You're not betraying her. You're honoring her. By living the life she wanted you to have, by smiling for your daughter, by letting someone care for you again." He looked at her, eyes glistening. "And you're okay being part of a heart that still belongs to someone else?" She smiled through her own emotion. "I don't want the part that's gone. I just want to fill the part that's still waiting to feel alive." For a long moment, silence filled the room, but it was the kind of silence that healed instead of hurt. Bruce lifted her hand to his lips, kissed it gently, then whispered, "You already have." Over the following weeks, their connection deepened. Bruce found comfort in small things, the sound of Joyce humming while cooking breakfast, the way her hand fit perfectly in his during walks, the warmth she brought into every quiet space he used to avoid. One night, they took Amber to the pier in Santa Monica. The air was crisp and the ocean shimmered under the moonlight. Amber rode the carousel, her laughter blending with the hum of waves and music. Joyce leaned against the railing beside Bruce. "She's so full of light," she said softly. "She gets that from her mother," Bruce replied. Joyce glanced at him. "And from you. You just don't see it." He turned to her, eyes reflecting the Ferris wheel lights. "You've changed this house, Joyce. You've changed me." She smiled, her gaze lowering shyly. "I think you just needed a reminder that love doesn't always end where pain begins." He reached for her hand. "Then you've been my reminder every day." Joyce's breath caught, but she didn't pull away. She looked at him, truly looked, and saw not just the man who had lost, but the man learning to live again. When the carousel music faded, Amber ran to them, arms outstretched. "Miss Joyce, come ride with me." Joyce laughed, kneeling to take her hand. "Of course, sweetheart." As Bruce watched them, his daughter's small hand in Joyce's, something inside him finally settled. This wasn't about replacing what was lost. It was about expanding the love that remained. Later that night, after Amber had fallen asleep in the back seat, Joyce rested her head on Bruce's shoulder as he drove. The streetlights painted soft gold patterns on her face. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded, her voice barely a whisper. "I didn't know healing could feel like this." Bruce smiled faintly. "What does it feel like?" "Like finding home in someone's eyes," she said. He glanced at her, his heart thudding. "Then I hope you stay." The next weekend, Joyce invited Bruce and Amber to her sister's house for Sunday dinner. The house was filled with noise, kids running, laughter spilling through rooms, jazz playing low. Her sister Carla gave Bruce an approving grin the moment he walked in. "So this is the man who made my sister smile again," Carla teased. Joyce blushed. "Carla." Bruce chuckled, shaking her hand. "Guilty as charged." Dinner was warm and loud. By the end of it, Amber was helping the cousins build a blanket fort, while Joyce and Bruce sat on the porch swing under the fading sky. "She fits in so easily," Joyce said softly. "She does," Bruce replied. "She hasn't laughed like this in a long time." Joyce turned to him, eyes full. "Neither have you." He smiled, a quiet admission. "That's because of you." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "You know, Bruce, when I met you, I didn't expect this. I didn't expect us." He brushed his thumb over her hand. "Neither did I. But sometimes the best things in life start by accident." Joyce laughed softly. "Or with a toy in a crowded mall." "Exactly." They sat in silence for a moment, listening to the laughter inside, the faint chirp of crickets outside, the rhythm of a life that finally felt whole again. A few days later, as the city fell quiet beneath a rare drizzle, Amber tiptoed into the living room where Joyce was reading. "Miss Joyce," she whispered, "can I ask you something?" Joyce smiled, setting the book down. "Of course, sweetheart." Amber looked nervous. "Do you think you could marry my daddy someday? You make him smile again. He didn't used to smile much before you." Joyce's breath caught. Tears stung her eyes before she could stop them. She pulled Amber gently into her arms, holding her close. "Oh, baby," she whispered, "I love your daddy very much." "And I love you." Amber's voice was small against her shoulder. "Then you should be my mom." Joyce smiled through tears. "We'll see, sweetheart. Sometimes love takes its time, but I promise I'm not going anywhere." That night, as Joyce left the house, Bruce walked her to the car. The rain had turned to a soft mist, glistening on the pavement. Amber's words still echoed in Joyce's heart. She turned to him, emotion tightening her voice. "She asked me tonight if I'd ever marry you." Bruce blinked, surprised. "She did?" Joyce nodded, eyes glistening. She said, "I make you smile again." He stepped closer, his expression tender. She's right. The air between them shimmered with quiet electricity. Two souls standing in the rain, heart stripped bare. Bruce reached for her hand, fingers trembling slightly. "Joyce," he began, "I don't know what tomorrow holds. I don't know if I'll ever stop missing what I lost. But I do know this. I don't want another day to pass without you in it." Her breath caught. He lifted her chin gently, his thumb brushing her cheek. "You've given me my heart back." Joyce's tears mingled with the rain, "and you've taught mine how to love again." Their lips met, slow, searching, tender, the kind of kiss that feels like healing, like every broken piece finally found where it belonged. The morning sun stretched softly across the Los Angeles hills, spilling gold into Bruce Arthur's kitchen. The scent of cinnamon pancakes filled the air, mingling with laughter, a sound he hadn't heard so freely in years. Amber stood on a stool, whisking batter in a bowl twice her size. "Daddy, you're getting flour everywhere!" Bruce laughed, brushing flour off his shirt. "That's because I have a terrible assistant." Joyce turned from the stove, her curls tied loosely, wearing one of Bruce's shirts that hung just a little too big. "You mean the assistant who's 7, or the one who keeps stealing chocolate chips?" Amber giggled, pointing a small finger at him. Bruce raised his hands in mock surrender, grinning guiltily. The three of them laughed, a melody of something that sounded a lot like peace. It had been almost a year since that night in the rain when Bruce and Joyce finally let love in. Since then, their lives had unfolded like the slow bloom of dawn, steady, tender, and real. They weren't just healing anymore, they were living. Later that afternoon, Bruce drove them to the Griffith Observatory, a place his late wife had loved, but he hadn't been able to visit since she passed. He'd avoided it for years, afraid of what it would bring back. But with Joyce beside him and Amber humming in the back seat, the idea didn't hurt anymore. When they arrived, the view opened wide, Los Angeles stretching endlessly below them, a sea of silver light under the afternoon sun. Joyce stood quietly beside him, her hand slipping into his. "You okay?" she asked softly. Bruce nodded, looking out at the skyline. "Yeah, for the first time, I really am." He turned to her then, and it was like seeing the city and his future all at once. "You know, the last time I was here, I asked God to give me peace. I didn't realize he'd send me you." Joyce's breath caught. Bruce smiled faintly. "You didn't just give me peace, Joyce. You gave me color again." Before she could speak, Amber tugged on Joyce's sleeve. "Miss Joyce, look," she said, pointing at a couple taking wedding photos near the railing, the bride's veil dancing in the wind. Joyce smiled softly. "They look happy." Amber turned to Bruce, eyes bright. "Daddy, when are you going to marry her?" Bruce froze for half a second, then met Joyce's eyes and saw the faint blush rising to her cheeks. He knelt to Amber's height, smiling. "Maybe soon, sweetheart. What do you think?" Amber clapped her hands. "Tomorrow!" They all laughed, but Bruce's gaze lingered on Joyce. There was something in his eyes that said he wasn't joking. That evening, the house was quiet, except for the sound of rain tapping softly against the windows. Bruce stood by the fireplace, holding something in his hand, an old leather-bound journal that once belonged to his late wife, Emily. He hadn't opened it since she passed, but tonight felt different. Joyce came downstairs in a long gray sweater, curls cascading softly around her face. "You okay?" she asked. He looked up, smiling gently. "I wanted to show you something." He opened the journal, revealing a faded photo. Emily holding baby Amber in her arms, sunlight wrapped around them like grace. "She used to write here every night," Bruce said quietly, "about life, love, everything. The last thing she wrote before she died was this." He turned the page and read aloud. "If I can't be there to love him, I hope someone else will. Someone who makes him laugh again, who sees his heart, who gives our little girl the kind of love I wanted for her. That's how I'll know he's okay." Tears welled in Joyce's eyes. "She wrote that?" Bruce nodded. "I think she knew. She always did." He looked at Joyce, his voice trembling but sure. "I think she'd be happy that I found you." Joyce's hand reached for his, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. "And I'm happy you let me in." They stood there holding each other as the rain whispered against the glass. Two souls who had lost so much, but somehow found everything that mattered. 2 weeks later, Bruce asked Joyce to meet him at the top of Mulholland Drive just before sunset. She arrived to find a small trail of candles leading to a clearing overlooking the city. The view below shimmered, all of Los Angeles glowing under the fading light. Bruce stood there, dressed simply, but with that same quiet grace that had always drawn her in. "Bruce," she said softly, smiling, "what is all this?" He took her hands. "You once told me that maybe it's not about forgetting the people we lost, but learning how to live again. That day I didn't know how, but every day since, you've shown me." Her eyes softened, tears already threatening. He knelt, pulling a small velvet box from his pocket. Inside, a simple diamond gleamed in the candlelight. Elegant, timeless, pure. "Joyce Taylor," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "You walked into my life on a day I was drowning in guilt. You handed my daughter a toy, and you handed me back my heart. You brought laughter into our home, light into our nights, and peace to a soul I thought was done hoping. I don't know what I did to deserve you, but I promise I'll spend the rest of my life trying to." Her tears spilled freely now, hands trembling as he opened the box. "Marry me," he whispered. "Let's build something new. Let's build forever." Joyce knelt with him, her voice breaking through tears. "Yes, Bruce, 1,000 times, yes." He slipped the ring onto her finger, and the city lights below seemed to glow brighter, as if the world itself was bearing witness. When they kissed, it wasn't just a promise. It was the quiet joining of two hearts that had been broken, healed, and reborn. Their wedding was small, intimate, and radiant. It was held in a garden bathed in golden light, surrounded by close friends and family. Amber stood proudly as the flower girl, tossing petals that fluttered like tiny blessings. As Bruce watched Joyce walk down the aisle, her white dress flowing softly around her, eyes shining like dawn, his heart trembled, not with grief, but with gratitude. When she reached him, he whispered, "You're everything I never knew I needed." Joyce smiled, tears glimmering. "And you're everything I never stopped believing in." Their vows were simple, raw, and true, not about perfection, but about choosing each other every day, through every scar and every sunrise. When the officiant pronounced them husband and wife, Bruce leaned in, whispering against her lips, "Thank you for finding me." Joyce smiled through her tears. "Thank you for remembering how to love." A year later, the Arthur home echoed with the cries and laughter of newborns, twin boys born under the pale blue light of early morning. Joyce lay in bed, tired but glowing, holding them both as Bruce sat beside her, his eyes wet. "Two," he whispered in awe. "I don't think my heart can hold this much love." Joyce smiled faintly. "It can. It already does." Amber peeked into the room, eyes wide. "They're so small." Bruce motioned her over. "Meet your brother, sweetheart." Amber touched one BB's tiny hand, giggling softly. "Hi," she whispered. "I'm your big sister." Joyce's eyes filled. "They already know," she said softly. Bruce leaned over, pressing a kiss to Joyce's forehead. "You gave us everything, Joyce. You gave us family again." She looked at him, her voice trembling. "You gave me home." That evening, after everyone had fallen asleep, Bruce stepped out to the porch. The night sky stretched wide, full of quiet stars and the hum of distant city lights. He opened Emily's old journal once more, flipping to a blank page. He picked up a pen and wrote, "Dear Emily, I kept waiting for the pain to fade, but it never did. It just changed shape. And somehow, in the light of Joyce's love, it became something beautiful again. She didn't replace you. She helped me remember what love was for." Amber laughs again. "The boys are perfect, and I'm finally at peace. Thank you for sending her." He closed the book and looked toward the sky, where the stars blinked like soft reminders. Joyce came outside quietly, wrapping her arms around him from behind. "You okay?" she whispered. He smiled. "More than okay." They stood there together, the city glittering below them, the sound of their children inside, the music of a life rebuilt. Bruce turned to her, his voice low, full of wonder. "You were right," he said. "When the heart remembers, it doesn't hurt anymore." Joyce rested her head against his chest, smiling. "No," she whispered, "it learns to love again." The night folded around them, warm, endless, and alive. As the stars shimmered above Los Angeles, the man who once lived in grief and the woman who once feared love stood hand in hand, surrounded by the light they had found in each other, the light their hearts had remembered all along. Thank you for listening to Mangalove Storytelling. If you find the story meaningful and enjoyable, please remember to give Mangalove a like and subscribe so you won't miss the newest stories. Wishing you a wonderful day.